Hey, what's going on, everyone? Tyler Boronski. You're watching my YouTube channel where I'm sitting down with recognizable faces in entertainment and the digital space. Today's guest, he's spending a lot of time lately behind the mic like this. He is the host of the Growing Up with Devon Werkheiser podcast, the co-host of NED'S Declassified podcast survival guide. So if you're around my age, I'm 24, you grew up with him on Nickelodeon and can always go to him for some life survival advice even now. He is Devon Werkheiser. Devon, thanks for doing this, and most importantly, thanks for finding your hidden request folder. I appreciate it.
Yes, you are one of the hidden messages that I recently discovered there's a portal to, but yeah, it's good to be here. Good to meet you, man.
Yeah, like I was saying off camera, I'm glad I didn't fall into the Instagram DM black hole.
I think I missed a lot of shit over the years, but we're here now.
Absolutely. Well, glad to have you on. I'm curious for you. You've started 2 podcasts now after the new year. So, like I said, a lot of this, man, you're kind of doing my job in a sense these days. What has surprised you about the podcasting process that maybe you didn't realize would be as difficult as until you started doing it? And I'll let you take that any way you want, whether it's the actual filming it, because I know you're doing hour-long episodes, or the process behind the scenes that I think people sometimes don't realize.
For me, the actual recording of the podcast, I love doing. I had known for some years, like, conversation is some of my favorite. It's one of my favorite things to do with people. I love having long conversations that kind of weave in and out of silliness and seriousness. And I've known for years, like, oh, I'd love to have a podcast. And I just never met like the right producers. And over the pandemic, I actually recorded a first episode of a podcast I was gonna start by myself, and I was foolish. I thought, oh, I can just start a podcast. I'll do it all myself. I'll record it from home. I'll edit it. I'll brand it. I'll market it. I'll schedule it. All of that. I recorded 1 episode and I said, absolutely not. I will not be doing this all on my own. It is way too much work. I realized in that moment, oh, I need producers. Like, I need people who are going to help me with this. Like, it is a production. To do all of that on my own, on top of everything else I do in my life, there was no way. It would be too insane. So that was kind of my first surprise. Then what was realizing, like, oh, I need help. Like, to cut clips, to edit it, to schedule it, to get the studio time, to book guests. Like, all of that, it takes a team. And now, luckily, I met my producers on Growing Up with Devon, Onami, and my producers on Ned's Pod at the same time. I kind of met them at a similar time last year, and they've been doing such a great job. And I really love, like, the actual recording of it. The hardest part currently is how much I need to be on social media to be promoting the pods, because social media addiction is already difficult enough without like needing to be posting. And now, because I'm growing these podcasts, they're my little babies, I'm always checking to see, are people commenting? Is it growing? And now my social media addiction at the moment is at an all-time high.
So when you were trying to lower the screen time on your phone, you really can't, because
screwed.
Part of the job.
I'm screwed now. Yeah. It's part of the job now, and I kind of love it. I love seeing these podcasts grow, but yeah, I'm on the socials all the time now.
I'm curious for you, getting guests. If I look through the rundown, like, you got guys like Spencer Sutherland, Allison Stoner, you just did Kendall Schmidt. I know people you know personally, but what has the process still been like to still book them? Because it's, even if you're boys with them, it can be tough to convince someone to come to see you in person, take an hour of their time to chat. What has that process been like to get guests?
The Ned's Pod right now is easy, right? It's the 3 of us. We batch a bunch of episodes. Ned, Mose, and Cookie, Daniel, and Lindsey. Like, we all get together. It's all good. We can bring on guest stars and stuff. It's kind of easy. Growing Up with Devon is ongoing, and it's mostly guests, sometimes solo episodes. So I constantly need to be booking guests. If I want to keep this podcast going, I constantly need to be talking to people. The good news is, it's early going. So I've lived a long life in LA, right? I've been out here 20 years. I know a lot of really cool, interesting, great people who are, even if I don't see them all the time, like, we're friends. If we see each other, we're friends. And so luckily right now I'm able to reach out to all my friends and say, like, hey, when can I get you on? And yeah, for sure, scheduling, like, the deal is I just need to be hitting up everyone all the time because scheduling people is tricky. It's like, oh, I'd love to, but I can't until like after April. And I'm like, all right. And I got to pencil that down, like follow up with them after April while I'm trying to get other guests. So it's just literally a constant process of asking people, hey, when can I get you on the pod, and figuring out how to schedule it. And it's pretty fun, man. It's pretty fun. That's where it's great that the producers come in, is like I'm handling the schedule, a lot of the scheduling and the guests, and then they book the studio and they help me edit and cut clips so that like my job is being the host, marketing it, and getting the guests.
When you do that podcast, do you have a certain goal going into those conversations, or is it for you more just catching up with old friends and then seeing where it goes from there? What do you kind of go with your approach into those conversations?
It's a little bit of all of the above. So growing up with Devon, the kind of overall theme that we're discussing is the transition from adolescence to adulthood, and in that we can talk about anything. When I was first conceptualizing it, there was kind of this series of questions. I had the idea of like, oh, it'd be cool if I asked the same, like if there was some structure that like every episode I asked some of the same questions, so that as there's more guests rolling through, an audience member will get to hear different answers to the same question, and like that's cool for the audience. That has since kind of just opened into less structure. I really find it's about opening the space. There's certain themes I like to keep the conversation in, because I am interested in bringing value to the audience, both entertainment wise and just like, I want to see if we can get into some areas of life that are less surface. I want to see if we can discuss some shit with meaning and maybe leave the audience with some inspiration. So I do have kind of places I'd like it to go, but man, it's just about getting in there and listening. It's just about getting in there and having a real conversation. And if I need to, I can bring it back to one of those questions that I talked about. If I need to, if I really want to get it back on track to something I want to talk about, I can. But honestly, it's really just been about like letting it go. Like the Keith Leak episode, Keith Leak Jr. from Smosh, I've known him for years. He's a good friend. He's a really funny dude. He's been going through something very serious, cancer diagnosis. He's been battling cancer, all this stuff. I feel like I barely asked him anything. He just went for an hour. He just like told me what's up for an hour, and I
probably
really
like a therapy session for him, honestly.
Yes, and yet so funny and entertaining. Like I didn't expect him to bring. I mean, I kind of did, but not the level of humor that he brought to this story. And really, we kind of just talked about that with him the whole time. Like we talked about him getting on Smosh, and then we talked about what he's been going through. And I feel like I didn't ask any questions. I feel like he just kind of ran with it. And yeah, that's what it's all about.
I think that's the best type of interview sometimes. It's like you maybe have an idea at the beginning of what you want, but you let it flow, man. You let it flow. And if you need to steer it back, then you can do so, like you said.
That's it. I knew I could do podcasts because, like I said, conversation, it's one of my favorite things to do. When I hang out with my friends, we just talk for hours. Even if we want to go do something, we usually end up just like talking. And so I knew I kind of have this in me already. And then, yeah, with the podcast, I'm learning how to keep it flowing, not let awkward pauses happen, like let guests speak where they want to speak, guide it places. It's been cool, man. I love people. I love talking to people. I love connecting. I love finding where we can relate. Like it's so fun, man.
I love that. Just switch gears a little bit. The other podcast, Ned's
yes, sir.
Survival Pod. I'm curious for you, when you rewatch Ned's episodes for the first time, what are the feelings you got?
Dude.
Which I'm sure it was like a lot of this, a roller coaster, but
for real, for the first batch of them, I mean, it has been surreal. This whole experience of doing the Ned's Pod has been surreal. Spending long periods of time with Daniel and Lindsey, just like making each other laugh and telling stories from our life, is like such a throwback to such a good time in our childhood, but also we're adults now. So it's like this whole new thing. And watching the episodes, I hadn't seen episodes in like 18 years probably. Like I don't watch them back, and we have to for the rewatch pod, and it's strange emotions, man. It's surreal seeing 13-year-old me. Some parts of the show I remember, some parts I don't, but the sets I remember, the people I remember. So like there's all these memories flooding back that I haven't thought of in forever, and a lot of joy and some strange just sadness. I don't know. It is bizarre, man. It's bizarre. Yeah. It's bizarre watching these episodes.
Can't even imagine. I really can't. What was the process like to convince Lindsey and Daniel to do this podcast with you? I don't know how your relationship has been with them over the years. I think watching your episode with Lindsey on Growing Up, it sounded like, because obviously you guys were really close back then, dated, but then it sounds like you kept tabs, but maybe weren't talking super frequently. So what was the process like to really make this, reunion happen the way you guys are now?
Yeah, I mean, our producer came to me with the idea of a rewatch pod, and it made sense to me. I was like, oh, this makes sense. And I was like, the only way we do this is with Daniel and Lindsey. Like, it has to be the three of us. That's that's the podcast, is the three of us. And so it was cool, man. It was just a matter of reaching out to them and saying, hey, there's someone who knows how to do this. Like, there's a producer I trust who knows how to make this right and make it well, and really handle like the production business side of things. But like, let's ride again, my friends. And I mean, they were on board. They were on board. We all are in a place in our lives where we had the space to do this, where, none of us are on a show right now. None of us are deep in something right now. So it actually came at a perfect time that we all could sign on board and kind of be open to the possibilities of it. And it's been cool, man.
It's been fun to watch. I gotta say, it's getting me nostalgic watching some of those episodes. I'm like, oh shoot, I remember that.
The biggest nostalgic thing for me on rewatching the show is remembering all the adult actors we worked with, like Darren Norris, who played Gordy.
I was gonna say Gordy.
I worked with him. Yeah, I worked with him so much, and just the teachers, and like, I just haven't thought of these people in a very long time, and so rewatching it, that's been the biggest emotion. It's just like love for these great actors who like treated us so well and were so funny and were so good. I just have a lot of love for our cast.
I do gotta ask you, do you know what Coconut Head is up to? Rob, is that his name?
I do know what Coconut Head is up to, and he will be both on Growing Up with Devon and Ned's pod in the next couple months.
That's called a tease in the business. There you go. Perfect.
That's right. He is the #1 most requested guest.
Sure.
I think on both my podcasts, so he will definitely be on both in the coming months.
Love it. You did say on Christy Carlson Romano's podcast, you've been pushed for a show reboot in the past. That hasn't happened. What is the feedback, I guess, you received on why that didn't happen, and what, I guess, direction they would want it to go if say it did happen?
I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with anything. I think we made a good pitch, and it's steps removed from me, is like, it's all through a couple other people. So we made a good pitch. I know the people we pitched it to knew it was a good pitch. Whoever they ran it to up the chain, it's a big fucking studio system, man. And it's a big hierarchy of people making decisions. Who fucking knows, to be honest? Like, I don't know why they passed on it. They didn't want to do it at the time. They didn't want to let us sell it. They know it was a good pitch. Whoever, I don't know who makes the decisions. It's not the people we pitch to. I don't know, man. This is how it goes.
How long ago was this?
2 summers ago, summer 2021.
Will you keep pushing, you think, or if something
honestly,
itself?
Honestly, the podcast is doing what I wanted from the reboot. If someone wants to try, someone at the studio gets interested, that would be a discussion, I guess. But right now, for me, man, The podcast is better.
Yeah.
It's better than a reboot. It's more us. It's I think more sustainable. I don't know. I dig it, but we'll see what happens. And like, man, it gets clicks and shit, and talking about it on Vulnerable was all right. I don't like, even though it's the truth, I don't enjoy like playing the victim about like they passed on it and won't let us sell it. There's a million reasons things happen in this industry, and you're not owed anything in this industry. I just know the idea of Ned, Mose, and Cookie as adults giving advice on adulthood. I just know it would be great. I just know it would be good for the audience. It would be good for us. It would be good for the network. Like, to me, it's just a win-win-win for everyone involved. So it hurt for it just to be passed on and us not to make it. But I think everything happens for a reason, because like I said, the podcast is kind of more fun, man.
And you guys get more probably creative freedom doing the podcast too anyway. So
absolutely.
Did make a good point how not everything's always owed to you. You've talked about numerous times, I guess when you hit 25, you went broke. It wasn't quite the next peak as you wanted to. I know it's hard to pinpoint essentially why, but what's the feedback I guess you received from other people in the industry, or just why maybe there wasn't more opportunities after Ned that you would have hoped for? I know it's the impossible question.
It's the question of my life, man. I have no idea. There's a million things I could guess at why, but this industry, it doesn't owe anyone anything ever. There's a million reasons. Like, the timing is everything. Who you know is everything. Who you know at the right time is everything. Like, who your reps end up being, who your reps end up meeting. Like, there are so many kind of like cosmic, out of your control reasons why anyone becomes successful in this industry. And I have no idea why. It's been difficult for me to not have the success I wanted, knowing I'm like, there's a whole generation that knows who I am and like is supportive of me and like loves what I've done and loves me in some capacity. So there's always been this cognitive dissonance of like, that has to count for something in this industry. Like,
you've reached a peak
to mean
most people
something.
Yeah, you've reached a peak that most people pursuing acting will never reach. You already did that, man. So
yes.
Give yourself credit.
It's been confusing to me that it hasn't. But honestly, the transition from child actor to adult actor, a lot of actors do not make that transition. It is difficult.
You've mentioned before too, after Ned's, you said you've had to like relearn how to act. Can you explain, I guess, in what ways you meant by that?
I mean, Nickelodeon, and especially Ned's acting, is not movie acting. It's not HBO acting. It's not even procedural network TV drama acting. It's over the top, super broad, cartoonish sitcom acting. So doing that for 3 years and not being in acting class, it's like, there's just, it's not the same thing as getting an audition for a feature film and needing to go in there and like deliver some real, natural, like whatever. It's just not the same thing. So, I came across some auditions when I got off Ned's for, like more complex teenage parts in films or TV. And I realized like, I don't fully know how to do this in the best way. I can take a swing at it, but like, there is a craft to acting. There is ways you can get any script and I know how to get it. I know how to get into this. And I didn't have that yet. So I went and took a bunch of classes and studied my ass off for years and loved it, man. I love this profession. I love it.
Any specific people in your life in that stage that I guess you would credit?
Michael Wolfson is a very incredible acting coach in LA. He has a lot of clients who have done some very big things, and he is the coach that I really went to and like was scared in the class the first time I got in, because I was like, whoa, this is intimidating. the work ethic, the quality of the work from the other actors. There was an actor in there named Kyle Gowner, who's been in a lot. He's in some of the new Screams. He was in American Sniper, I think. Like, Kyle's been in a million things. He's a very, very good actor. And I remember him being in that class, like that first time I went to Michael Wilson's, and he was so good every single week. It was frightening when I first got in, because I was like, I don't know how to be that good. I need to be in this class. Like, it's intimidating, it's terrifying. This is where I need to be, because these people are better than me. So yeah, Kyle Gowner was amazing to watch every week in class. Yeah, and Michael Wilson. Yeah, he taught me so much, man.
That stage of your life, when you're transitioning, the show's over. You, like you said, now you're trying for the more, I guess, adult roles, moving for the industry. This is kind of a deep question. What's the process been like to, I guess, maybe separate your identity from the Ned's life? You know, so much early success, you know, peak really. And now that show's over, you're trying to move on with the rest of your life. What has that process been like for you to separate your career success from your personal identity, per se?
It's a great question, but it is like a question that is constantly being asked. Do you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
that is a constant dynamic in my life. Ned's, especially the Ned's identity, like, that is still the biggest thing I've done in my career, and it was 20 years ago. And now we're bringing it back with the podcast. Previous to the producer hitting me up about the Ned's Rewatch podcast, I was like debating over the summer of like, how much do I want to keep repping Ned's? Because when I wanted the reboot to happen, I really started like bringing it back on social media and like playing up my Nedness on social media, because I wanted the reboot to have kind of an audience to see. When the reboot got passed on, I still was like, maybe this can still happen if I keep this up. And I have fluctuated over the years with how much I want to still embody that identity of Ned. And I was really debating it over the summer. Like, do I need to start separating it in a more like conscious way? Do I need to start kind of distancing myself from it? It never felt right to do that, because I loved being on Ned's. I loved all the people on Ned's. I loved the blessing Ned's has brought to me. Whenever anyone recognizes me from Ned's, they have genuine love in their hearts for that show. So like, it never felt right to be like, nah. But I was debating it, and now with the podcast, I'm back, baby. Ned's back.
The thing is, there's no wrong answer with it. And I think the best way, you posted the clip with you and Kendall, and like Kendall was saying it, where if it wasn't a good experience for you, then you wouldn't want to keep it in your lives, redo a reboot. So
nope. But in general, in this industry, you do, or one must learn what your identity is separate from your output. Like, that's just a journey in life that everyone needs to go through, is this identity of what is the part of me that kind of is on its own, that isn't dependent on what I put out into the world, people's reaction of me, even my family's expectation of me. Like, getting to know the parts of yourself that no one can touch, that are just me, right? Who am I in the world? Who am I in difficult situations? What is my character? What are my values? What is my work ethic? Developing that, honestly, I think me not getting the success that I wanted in the industry helped me through my 20s develop who the fuck I am just as a person, just as me in the world. And so I'm kind of grateful it's gone the way it's gone, because now I do have a pretty strong identity that's separate from whatever I do on the internet or on the screen.
That kind of segues to my last question for you. What advice would you have for, I say, younger talent, whatever you want, TV stars, like the next wave of Nickelodeon stars? Social media obviously is a big thing. You see the TikTok stars, you know, really young. I mean, I was around the D'Amelio family when they were just starting off in Connecticut when I was living there. Like,
I saw that.
Move quick for them. So
Yep.
I guess, what advice would you have for young talent when they're still maturing, but they have all the eyeballs on them at a young age? what would you, I don't know if you've been in that scenario now, if you're playing mentor to younger actors these days, but what do you tell them?
That's a tough question, man. Because it's really tricky. It's really
subjective
tricky.
too. It's subjective to the individual.
It is. It's dependent on the situation, and it's tricky because
I guess what would you have liked to hear if you were, I don't, like you said, you had a good experience on set, but I guess if there's anything you look back now, I don't know, a piece of advice that would have helped you out even moving forward in life.
Yeah, I mean, find separate from the eyeballs, because with the eyeballs can come a lot of opportunity, a lot of possibility, a lot of success, a lot of like cool shit can open up in your life because you have a lot of eyeballs on you. But I think simultaneously from that, you have to develop what it is you are truly interested in the world. Like, not just what gets you the most reactions or the thing you do on TikTok, but like, what are you interested in? What are you passionate about in the world? And it can't be fame. It has to be a craft. It has to be some form of art or creativity or something you can develop, or helping people, or I don't know, but it's just like, the fame is not sustainable. It's just gonna constantly be a weird, sometimes good, sometimes bad influence on your life. So at the same time that's happening, you better be developing something you can count on, which is like for me, I really got into acting. Like, let me go to acting class and let me like work at this shit. And now I love it. And I love films. I love watching films and breaking them down in my mind, like different components of filmmaking, cinematography, writing, directing, like I love this shit, and no one can take that from me. No one can take my passion for it from me. So I think it's key to develop that within yourself.
All right, he's Devon Werkheiser. Devon, thanks for the time. Thank you for being so open and genuine, and like I said, just willing to share your story with us. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you caught me, Tyler.
Yeah, man. Just in time.